Hello. So, welcome to another day of walking with Jesus. And just like yesterday, we are going to cover a lot of ground today as we try to make sure that we have the crucifixion of Jesus behind us and Jesus buried for this Saturday so that we can go in and celebrate the resurrection on Sunday. And so, we're covering Luke 22:39 to 65 today. In this, we have Jesus praying in the Mount of Olives. We have his betrayal by Judas. We will see Peter deny him, and the soldiers will mock him. And so, beginning at Luke 22:39, and he came out and went, as was his custom, to the Mount of Olives, and the disciples followed him. And when he came to the place, he said to them, "Pray that you may not enter into temptation." And he withdrew from them about a stone's throw and knelt down and prayed, saying, Now, before I talk about what he's going to pray, I think it's really important to just pause long enough to say, pray that you may not enter into temptation is probably a good prayer that we ought to pray more often than we do. Also, I wanted to draw attention to this, and as was his custom, he went to the Mount of Olives. As was his custom, he went to the Mount of Olives to pray. Do we have the custom of going to a specific place to pray? Anyway, as we move forward, then, Jesus' prayer is this: Father, if you are willing, remove this cup from me. Nevertheless, not my will, but yours be done. So, once again, this is not something Jesus is looking forward to, though he knows what's ahead. He's not looking forward to it. And he's like, if there's any other way, now would be a really good time to reveal it. And there appeared to him an angel from heaven, strengthening him. And being in agony, he prayed more earnestly, and his sweat became like great drops of blood falling down to the ground. And when he rose from prayer, he came to the disciples and found them sleeping for sorrow. And he said to them, Why are you sleeping? Rise and pray that you may not enter into temptation. So I just want to draw attention to the fact again that the agony, the emotion that Jesus is going through has been so great that the corpuscles in his sweat glands have broken, and his blood is in his sweat. His sweat is tinged with blood. It's a very emotional state. It doesn't happen that often, but it can, and obviously that's the kind of wrestling that Jesus was going through. Then, verse 47. While he was still speaking, there came a crowd, and the man called Judas, one of the 12, was leading them. He drew near to Jesus to kiss him. But Jesus said to him, Judas, would you betray the Son of Man with a kiss? And when those who were around him saw what would follow, they said, Lord, shall we strike with the sword? And one of them struck the servant of the high priest and cut off his right ear. We know from Matthew's gospel that was Peter. But Jesus said, No more of this. And he touched his ear and healed him. Then Jesus said to the chief priests and the officers of the temple and the elders who had come out against him, Have you come out as against a robber with swords and clubs? When I was with you day after day in the temple, you did not lay hands on me. But this is your hour and the power of darkness. So once again, we see the power of Jesus, that he's able to reach out and touch and heal. Obviously, no one is going to take Jesus and kill him by force unless Jesus is willing to go, unless he is willing to be led away. And that is exactly what's happening. Verse 54, Then they seized him and led him away, bringing him to the high priest's house. And Peter was following at a distance. And when they had kindled a fire in the middle of the courtyard and sat down together, Peter sat down among them. And then a servant girl, seeing him as he sat in the light and looking closely at him, said, This man also was with him. But he denied it, saying, Woman, I do not know him. And a little later someone else saw him and said, You also are one of them. But Peter said, Man, I am not. And after an interval of about an hour, still another insisted, saying, "Certainly, this man also is with them, for he too is a Galilean." But Peter said, "Man, I do not know what you're talking about." And immediately, while he was still speaking, the rooster crowed. And the Lord turned and looked at Peter, and Peter remembered the saying of the Lord, how he had said to him, "Before the rooster crows today, you will deny me 3 times." And he went out and wept bitterly. Can you imagine the heartbreak of Peter at a time like this? He had said that he would go with Jesus to death. Jesus had told him that he was going to deny him. And now it's happened, and he's caught in the act. Jesus looks over at him, and he knows. The pain is great, but Jesus had also prayed for him that he would be restored to faith. Verse 63 to 65, now the men who were holding Jesus in custody were mocking him as they beat him. They also blindfolded him and kept asking him, "Prophesy, who is it that struck you?" And they said many other things against him, blaspheming him. So as we read these words today, I just want us to remember what our Lord was willing to endure on our behalf. The mockery, the judgment, the emotion, the outrage, that very God would step out of heaven and become flesh is awesome enough, but that he would be willing to submit in obedience to death, even death on a cross, is truly astounding. And I just want you to remember that all of this is happening because he loves you, because he cares for you. And so as you go through this day, may you ask that he would strengthen you and empower you so that you would be able to overcome temptations and be able to proclaim his name, that you would never fall short in denying him because of the great love that he has poured out for you. May you return that love with faithful service. God bless you as you walk with Jesus today.